All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on, SHIPIT Nation YouTube station? We are back Saturday afternoon, right on schedule. We have ourselves, I believe it's a 7-game DraftKings slate tonight. Already have the slate plan posted and up. If you are a subscriber to the site, we also have some discussion going on in the Discord now. But excited to break down these games. We're going to keep it shorter. I say it every single time, but today I'm really going to focus on just kind of giving you guys a broad idea of each game, kind of what my thoughts are, kind of some thoughts to get going here before lock. Before we get into it, guys, I know we got to get this out of the way, but use code SHIP50 for $50 off your first month. That does include access to the Shiptimizer. Fantastic, guys. You know, I'm going to use the example of my golf sweats. I mean, not in contention to win any first place this week, I don't believe, but on a week, you know, where I could not tell you which golfers to play. I just absolutely love sweating it. Snuck in a 6 out of 6 at like 4 or 5% own. That is simply due to the product and the information that is given on the site for PGA. Also, too, many other sports are smashed. I believe we have MMA tonight. Shout out to those guys over there. Big Marley and Title, just absolutely crushing all the time. And then, you know, NHL. You know, we're going to get into some NASCAR stuff, you know, take advantage of the discount code Wild still here. But enough talking for me. We are getting into this 7-game slate. I apologize. I'm not in uniform today. No hat, no hoodie. We have a family party going on after this. So after this, you answer some questions in the Discord and then pop open a nice cold beer. Get ready to get ready for these basketball games. But diving in. So a broad slate overview. When we're kind of looking at some of these totals, I mean, we're going to want to attack an Atlanta-Washington game at a 237.5 total. We're going to want to attack a Golden State game against the Bulls with only a 6-point point spread. We're going to want to attack a Denver-Phoenix high-paced matchup with the 237.5 total. And most importantly, I believe the most fun game of the night, not so much in from a fantasy perspective, but from a real-life basketball perspective. OKC is taking on Memphis, 2-point spread, 242.5 total. A few things, too, before we dive in. Some injury stuff I want to note. You know, some questionable tags we are looking on. Obviously, Ant is questionable. Desmond Bane, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter, Lonzo Ball, Lou Dort, Denny, Mike Conley. Keyshawn George is going to be a big one for value. And I believe Casey Wallace is already ruled out. But to dive in, let's just kind of go quickly game by game, give you some thoughts. First one's pretty ugly in my opinion. Not a very big total. It is a close spread. We have the Spurs at Magic. Don't have much from this game. I mean, we have to talk about Wemby because it is Wemby. But we're not seeing the increased minutes that we're kind of used to seeing, the extended run. We're kind of seeing him flirt right around that 30-minute number. We want to see him in the 35, 36s, especially at $11,000 price tag. But, you know, like I alluded to in the slate plan, how many times we're going to get a 1, 2, or 3% Wembanyama. I think it's, you know, important if you're making a ton of lineups, get a little exposure here. But the Magic are tough. Spurs are on a back-to-back. Magic, one of the best teams in rim defense. So this is not a spot that I'm super excited to roster him. You know, shout out to Darren Fox. I mean, I think he's still going to search for that role with the team. I think I'm going to kind of take the wait and see approach just with the matchup against the Magic. And then from the Magic side, I mean, you got Franz and Paulo. I'm going to go Paulo, be my only play from the Magic. He's starting to get his minutes back. We're starting to see that. I believe this is a good spot for him. Price tag is very fair, though, but the Spurs have looked so bad defensively that I'm going to want to, you know, most likely get him in a handful of lineups. But, you know, 8,400 is a healthy tag, especially on a 7-game slate. But just something to kind of monitor as we're going to get him at under 10% ownership. Not much from that game, but as we dive down, Hawks and Wizards, this is going to be a fun one. We saw it last night. You know, Jordan Poole had a 45 real point night. which is very exciting to see. Just, one of those guys you kind of root for. Ever since he left Golden State, he's kind of been on my list of players that I hope play well. But 7,100, we'll start there. Pretty important here on this slate. We're going to see some prices on this slate as we get to the next game as well that don't really make any sense. This one, high-paced matchup, coming off 45. Nobody else to really shoot the ball. I mean, they ship Kuz out of the way, and we have a G League squad around him. I think it is going to be a Jordan Poole type of night. He is garnering some ownership at 17, almost 0.5%. I believe that number could be around 20, but I'm still okay getting to him. We have Bub, Koulibaly, Keyshawn George. Obviously, Keyshawn George, like I said earlier, is questionable. That's going to be some huge news on the slate. Keyshawn George is my favorite of the group. I mean, all these guys were pretty productive last night on a back-to-back. All these guys are young. I'm not worried about their minutes changing. So he's going to be my favorite play of the bunch at 4,300. If he was to miss, huge bumps to Bub Carrington and Koulibaly. I think both those guys become in play if Keyshawn George was to miss. I'm going to give you exact minutes here. I have this written down. I want to make sure I can get them correct for you. But with Sarr ruled out early this morning, we're looking at, the Holmes and the knockoff Vooch on the other side, splitting center minutes. Last night, Holmes, was productive. I'm going to get in exact minutes here. 31 minutes for 35 DraftKings points, 12 and 12, 12 points, 12 rebounds. With the prices being so similar today, he'll be my favorite play over Vooch. And, we're seeing all these guys with some pretty decent increases to their salaries. If this continues to be, if we get another game like this and these prices increase, I think it's time to step away. But a good matchup against the Hawks, we want to take advantage of it. Jumping over to the Hawks side, I mean, we're going to go right back to the well with Trae Young. He was popular last night, only had 7 assists, didn't quite get us there. But sub 10K against the Wizards team that is playing some good basketball. But from the defensive side, we want to definitely attack them. So he's going to be my favorite play of the Hawks. Interesting to see Dyson Daniels at 7,100 starting to get so much ownership. I think if we see that ownership around that 26% number, I will be off. Obviously has the upside with stocks and is taking a few more shots. I really like him. And then one more note in Okongwu. I mean, Okongwu did not make the slate plan, kind of an ownership thing and his price coming up, but this is definitely going to be a good spot for him. And as we see with 35% ownership, it is going to be utilized by the field. Don't mind him, but at ownership, I'm going to get away. Another interesting game we have next, Warriors at the Bulls. Like I said, this is going to be a really interesting spot. I talked about some pricing discrepancies here. Majority of my plays are just going to be Warrior plays with one from the Bulls. We'll start with the Warriors side. 8,400 for Steph Curry. I think this team definitely got a spark or is getting a spark with the Jimmy Butler news. They obviously know that if Curry gets it going, this team could definitely, be one of the better teams in the league. Just not quite there so far this season. But 8,400 with a matchup against the Bulls, it is correct. And I think it is going to be good chalk if you get Curry at 34%. Unfortunately, but, hey, 8,400 for a guy that obviously has extreme upside. Pretty much, in my mind, a pretty disrespectful tag. So I'll be all over the Steph Curry stuff. Jimmy Butler, because of physicals due to the trade, he wasn't able to participate in shoot around. I'm going to look at him, as a full questionable with that news. I want to verify. No. Okay. So as of a few minutes ago, he is on track to play. I'm still okay with the Curry stuff. That is going to take me off of Buddy Hield a little bit. Buddy Hield getting, right around that 30-minute mark, but at 4,800 with Jimmy Butler in, I don't know if we can get there, but interested to see. Definitely going to have to keep an eye on it. And then my I know ball play of the day, Draymond Green at 5,800. I think obviously we like to target players, specifically him. Yeah, I wish he could shoot a little better, but specifically him that's able to get a handful of rebounds, a handful of steals and blocks. I think this is going to be a game Jimmy Butler either in the lineup or out of the lineup will get Draymond pretty fired up. I think it's time for this team to really put, the pedal down and start playing some good basketball. And I think it's going to start with him and Curry. So I really like him. Looking at this 38% number, I think that number is going to be a little high. But I still think it's going to be a decent play. If it's at 40%, I mean, there's definitely avenues to getting off of it. but I don't think it gets that high. Jumping over to the Bulls side, don't have much I really love here. Warriors aren't necessarily the worst defensive team, and we have some guard stuff. These prices are starting to catch up a little bit. I will shout out, Kobe White. I will shout out Josh Giddey, and then Io. Fair prices, and if this game does go back and forth and does stay close, these guys will be necessary and have some good production. So just kind of shout them out. But my real play here is going to be Vooch at 8K. I don't envision the Warriors being able to stop him. And somebody that I did skip on the Warriors side that I do like is going to be Looney off of the bench at 4,200. I believe he gets some extra run tonight just to be able to stick on Vooch. So I do like Looney on one side, but I think Vooch is going to be able to take advantage of this matchup. Some fair ownership at 12, 13%, hoping that number stays around that 8, 9% number, and we're able to get some upside at 8K in a decent matchup for him. All right, guys, game of the night here. Warriors and Grizzlies. I'm sorry, not Warriors. We just talked about that game. Thunder and Grizzlies. Like I said, this is going to own the largest point total on the night, as well as a very close spread. Two of the best teams, not only in the West, but in the NBA, going at it head-to-head. Interesting spot, though, as far as fantasy purposes goes. One, like I alluded to in the slate plan, if you haven't read it yet, we talk about this a few times every show or a few times every week on the shows, it feels like, specifically to a Cavs team that has had so many non-competitive games going into the fourth quarter. The prices really haven't been brought to the correct number when they play close games. Perfect example tonight with the Thunder. Now, DraftKings did bump up SGA's price just a touch, but we're talking about a guy that has 350 real-life point games out of his last 8. In games where he is on the floor in the fourth quarter, he is an absolute stud, fantasy upside, out the gym. So he's going to be most likely one of my favorite plays, if not my favorite play on the entire slate. This matchup sets up real well. Nice high-paced matchup. Not really scared of Ja or Desmond Bane on the other side. But I'm all over SGA. As far as everybody else goes, interesting. I mean, we saw Chet and Hartenstein last night. Obviously, Chet coming back. They're going to be careful with his minutes. But I just don't really love much here in this game. I think, obviously, the upside to Hartenstein is gone. Jalen Williams, you can make a case for him at 8,100, but there's just so many guys. I know different positions, but I'd rather just get the extra 300 and get to Steph Curry. I'd rather save the $1,000 and go down to Jordan Poole. But that's more, of in a vacuum, not so much positionality. So don't necessarily mind him, especially a low ownership in such a great matchup. And then same kind of goes for the Grizzlies side. This is going to be more of a I want to watch it because I like basketball type game. It's just tough for me to make cases. Everybody back in the starting lineup, you're kind of confused about minutes. I will note that this is going to be a game, in my opinion, that we are going to see, a few extra minutes for Ja Morant and a couple of these starters. So you can definitely make a case for him at 8,800, but kind of the same thing, kind of alludes to him. It's just why spend the extra 400 where you can get Steph Curry. I think Steph is going to have more upside and definitely a better matchup. I mean, the Thunder are great, at stopping, the three-pointer, the three-point attempts, and they're really good in transition. Both things that the Grizzlies really like to do. So from a fantasy perspective, it's hard for me to kind of get behind plays. But SGA by far my favorite play from the game and most likely on the slate. We could see a really big night for him. I'm curious to check his point total prop before the game starts. I'm thinking it's going to be in the mid to high 30s, which is absolutely outrageous from a point prop perspective. What do we have left? We got the T-Wolves game. We got Celtics and Knicks and Nuggets and Suns. We have a few fun ones here. Not so much here for the Blazers and the Timberwolves. Obviously, Ant is questionable. Denny is questionable. But damn, back-to-back games don't really have any plays. I mean, DeAndre Ayton at 7K is definitely going to be interesting, especially if his ownership stays low. He continues to get the minutes. If he gets his rebounding, kind of ceiling tonight, or a decent game from a rebounding perspective, I believe this tag just isn't expensive enough. So I do like some DeAndre Ayton. You can make a case for all these guards taking Denny off the floor. You can get behind Simons. You can get behind Kamara. You can get behind Scoop, maybe even Sharp. But I'm going to agree with the field here. I don't think there's much ownership in a tougher matchup versus the Timberwolves. Don't mind Ant if he does play at 9,700. We've seen him kind of tear up this team this season, but 9,700 is a big boy tag, especially when I don't think personally that the spread is close to what it should be. I think this is double-digit spread. I think the Timberwolves can run them out of the gym. So not a ton of plays. Aside from Naz Reid, to echo what Rio's saying, I mean, he wants to play him all the way up until 8K. Randall's going to be out another week or so, maybe even 2. If that's the case, we could see an $8,200 price tag from Naz Reid very soon. Until then, just play him, playing huge minutes, 3 games that he has. He's DraftKings points at least of a floor 45, 46, with minutes 36 to 40. So just lock and load him. Could get behind some Rudy Gobert at 6,800 if you think he could take advantage of the 8 matchup. And if Ant is out, we'll be able to get behind some NAW, some Rob Dillingham, even some Mike Conley, but don't love it. Like I said, I think if Ant plays, this game isn't going to be much of a game. Moving on, 2 games left, Celtics and Knicks. Celtics have not been playing good basketball, just got blown out by the Mavs. The game was a lot closer at the end. I believe the Mavs only won the game by 7, but the majority of that game in the second half was 25 to 30 points. Interesting to see at the end of the game, Missoula pull his starters with 6, 7, 8 minutes left. And that backup unit off of the bench, guys we don't really see much, clawed themselves back into the game versus the Mavs starters. And Missoula never thought twice about putting his starters back in. I think he's kind of sending a message. I think this is a big spot for the Celtics, specifically the starters, specifically Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I think we're in the Garden on a Saturday night. This is a great time to kind of pull things together, and I expect a big game from him. At very low ownership, as we see, it's 8, 9 right now. I think it's going to be closer to 5 or 6 at sub 10K. Absolutely love me some Jason Tatum. So people are going to get behind Al Horford as a value play. I don't like it at all. I think that toe injury is still lingering a little bit. I don't see him getting above 20, 22 minutes in this game. Obviously, if you take his fantasy point per minute rate, it equals not a very good play. So aside from that, don't really love it. I mean, you can get behind some Derek White at 6,500. If his shot falls, it could be a very productive night for him. And I think we're just a little priced out of Kristaps Porzingis at 7-8 with Cat on the other side. I think there's increased foul trouble, and I don't want to mess around with that tonight. Jumping over to the Knicks side, kind of the same old story we always say. You know what I mean? OG off of the floor, Precious into the starting lineup. He's been getting some huge minutes. I don't mind him. He did get a write-up in the slate plan tonight. I think he protects very well at that price tag. It's going to be Precious higher, slightly higher than Draymond Green. But a very interesting play if he's going to continue to get 30 minutes. I also really like Cat. I think people are going to stray away because they think it's a bad matchup. I don't, think he's fully matchup proof, but I think with the way the Celtics have been playing, giving up, what is it? It was like 16, 17, 18 rebounds to Gafford the other night. I think Karl-Anthony Towns is in for a big spot tonight. And I keep saying it, under 10K, I want to play him, throw in some 6, 7% ownership. I really like him. No Brunson for me. I think the Celtics have played pretty decent against guards as of late, even though they're not playing the best basketball. So focus on Precious, focus on Cat. I guess you could get behind some Josh Hart with some triple-double upside, but don't necessarily love it. All right, guys, last game before I get out of here, Nuggets and Suns. This one's going to be fun. Started off where we're supposed to start. Jokers 12-8. DraftKings finally agreed to bring up his price. Jamal Murray is questionable. Jamal Murray is questionable, and that's a very interesting spot. In my opinion, I mean, I wouldn't call it a must play because he's 12-8, but he's averaging 2 fantasy points per minute with Jamal Murray off of the floor. Well, Jamal Murray and Westbrook off the floor. So if Murray is ruled out, I'm going to try my best to get Joker in all my lineups. But some interesting pieces around him. Michael Porter Jr. is questionable tonight. I think he plays. If Murray's out, absolutely load up to Michael Porter, who's been setting the world on fire. I think he's added the back cut to his game, which is really interesting. He's not so much spotting and shooting and kind of taking a majority of defenders to the basket, and it's really, helping him provide some upside. If Jamal Murray is in, I don't mind him. Brown's okay at 5,900. Don't love it. That's definitely going to be more of a play if Murray is out. Aaron Gordon is going to catch the value section of the slate plan of 4,800. His minutes were down last time out, but it was on a back-to-back, and they had that game pretty much in the bag against the Magic early in the fourth quarter. Essentially, that's it. I think if Murray's out, we kind of went to some Strother. He didn't really show us upside. Now his price is up. Pickett got some run, but 3,800. I like other pieces more. So that's kind of where I'll stand on this. Moving over to the Suns, don't have much I like. Tyus Jones will find the value section as well at 4,300. This is a position where you can get high 20s, low 30s in minutes against a Nuggets team that's struggling in transition defensively. So want to be able to take advantage of that. I don't mind some Devin Booker at low ownership. I don't mind some KD at low ownership, but I don't really love it. All these other kind of value role pieces are priced accordingly. Grayson Allen at 4,900, Bradley Beal off the bench at 65, Royce O'Neal at 47. These are all going to be stay away for me and focus on other stuff. But I do like some Tyus Jones. I've said it before on shows. I like Tyus Jones, obviously, when he gets the minutes, but when he has these pieces on the floor, because he's able to increase his assist numbers and he gets the third, sometimes even the fourth worst defender as a matchup on the other side. Guys, we wrapped it up. That's all it is. We're doing better. We go from 30 minutes last week to 20 minutes this week. The slate plan is up. The cores will be up. There will be discussions in the Discord. But I am out of here. One more time before we do ship 50. Utilize the code while you can. We're taking it away soon. Come be a part of the best daily fantasy discussion board, community, family, whatever words you want to use. It is definitely top notch and the best in the industry. Come take advantage. But guys, good luck. Like I said, everything is posted. Any questions, send me in the Discord. I'm out of here. Going to go drink a nice cold one and enjoy the day. Watch some golf, watch some NBA. Good luck tonight in your contest, and let's ship it.